Good evening, everybody. My name is Mitesh, and I'm from Success at School, and I'll be your host for the evening. You're participating in this webinar because you're interested in learning about EDF's early career offerings. To keep things brief, tonight you're going to hear from EDF, a multinational energy company and Britain's biggest generator of zero carbon electricity, as well as Gemma, Holly, and Ellie in the early careers team at EDF, and a couple of EDF apprentices, Sam and Ben, who will be telling you about life as an apprentice. Before I turn the discussion over to Holly and Ellie, I would like to make a small request. If you've got any questions during the presentation, please submit them in the chat and we'll address them during the Q&A at the end of the webinar. We usually get several questions during these events, so we'll do our best to answer as many as possible. The webinar is also going to be recorded and be uploaded to our YouTube channel at Success at School, where you can rewatch it as many times as you like. Feel free to also follow us on Instagram to hear about our latest apprenticeship opportunities and insight webinars. Holly and Ellie, over to you.
Hi there, good evening everybody. My name's Holly and I am the recruitment business partner responsible for all of the early careers recruitment that goes on at EDF. So before I get started, just wanted to say a huge thank you for spending some time with us this evening. And as Mitesh said, if you've got any questions, please feel free to write them in the chat. No question's a silly question. We are completely here for all of your questions, and if we don't know the answer, we will we'll find out. So what I'm going to be talking about this evening is the recruitment process here at EDF, to give you a little bit of a breakdown of what you can expect, and also because you're on this webinar, you're a bit lucky, you can have some hints and tips as well. So firstly, just to give you an overview of our early careers recruitment process, you will be entered into an online application form where you can tell us your name and address and a little bit more information about yourself. You can also upload a CV to our portal as well. We will do an initial telephone, sorry, not an initial telephone screen, an additional CV screen, just to have a look at your qualifications, just to make sure that you fit our requirements. We'll then move on to some testing, so behavioural assessments and online ability testing. Please don't be put off by these. They're not scary. They are designed to bring out the best in you. We will then move on to a telephone interview. Again, no need to be scared at any part of this process. It's a chat between yourself and the recruitment team at EDF, again, to understand a little bit more about you, what you're looking for and why you're interested in EDF. If you're successful after the telephone interview, we will move on to an assessment centre. So an assessment centre is designed, again, to get the best out of you, and I can't reiterate that enough. So you will be have the opportunity to have an interview, so a face-to-face interview where you can ask, again, loads of questions, a group exercise to see how you react with others, and also a one-to-one exercise as well. If successful after the assessment centre, we do sometimes move to a second interview, but sometimes we move straight to offer. So the process is, we hope, short, sharp and succinct for you. And again, you will have a dedicated recruiter, so if you've got any questions throughout the process, you can ask them. So our assessment approach at EDF, so we follow a strengths-based approach to recruitment. So essentially this means that we look at your strengths. We don't necessarily always look at your background, because we appreciate not everybody has, you know, years and years of work experience. So we just want to look at your strengths and we want to look at what you enjoy. As I said previously, our recruitment process is designed to bring out the best in you. So we will focus on a couple of core strengths. So the strengths that we focus on at EDF and are vitally important to us, and we have these strengths across all of our organisation, are collaboration, growth, drive and delivery, resilience, clarity, curiosity, improver and business affinity. So if you do enter into any of our processes, these are the key things that you need to look out for and make sure that you're getting across during your interview process. So how should I prepare for an assessment centre at EDF? So a couple of tips for you here. Always do your research. It's so important to understand more around the business and specifically what you're looking for and what you're applying for. Think about why you want the job. You know, we want people that are invested in our business and excited about our business, and we want this to show throughout the process. Always be prepared, so make sure you've got examples of when you've used your strengths, so the strengths that I just showed you on the previous slide, when have you used those? And those experiences don't necessarily need to be specifically work experience. They could be from any aspects of your life, including your school or your college, your voluntary work, any clubs and societies you've been to, paid employment, gap years, or even travel. We also want to see you be proactive and get involved. You essentially need to participate in every part of the assessment centre process in order for us to be able to observe your strengths. So make sure you get involved. Stay engaged and stay motivated. Sometimes these days can be quite long, but it's really important for you to, like I said, stay engaged, ask loads of questions and stay motivated as well, because ultimately you might be getting a job at the end of it. Always take time to read and understand all information given in exercises. I'm sure many of you have had experiences where you've had parents, guardians say to you, make sure you read the question, double check and read again. But again, I can't tell you how important that is. So make sure that you read and understand all the information given to you. Finally, and equally probably most importantly, is be yourself and show your passion. We don't want carbon copies, we don't want robots, we want people to be authentically themselves and join a business where everybody is welcome. So I'm going to pass over to Gemma just now. Thank you.
Thank you, Holly. So my name is Gemma and I'm an early careers manager here at EDF. Basically, we have two early careers teams. So we have one in people development and one in the Nuclear Skills Alliance. Holly, if you could just go to my next slide, please, that'd be great. So as you can see, we have quite a lot of apprenticeships that run across EDF. We've got two of our fantastic apprentices, Sam and Ben, who I'm going to pass over to in a moment, who are part of one of our schemes, the Wind Turbine Technician Apprenticeship. But Holly and Ellie, who are on the call, they manage the recruitment side of things. So that's why Holly's give you some great advice around the assessment centres. If you are then successful within those assessment centres, that is where you will be managed by an early careers manager, so somebody like myself. And what it is our responsibility to work with the business, to work with yourselves, and to work with either the college or the university that you will attend as part of that apprenticeship to ensure that you are getting all the skills that are required as part of that apprenticeship, but also getting a good knowledge and a really good understanding of what it is that we would like you to do kind of post scheme. So the apprenticeships run from different variations. So you got them for 2 years, you've got them for up to 5 years. And these can run from level 3 to level 6, depending on the apprenticeship that you'd like to view. Already in the chat, Holly has put in the link to our EDF Energy Career Apprenticeship page. So if there is an apprenticeship that you are looking for, then please click on there and you can have a look. One of the things, if you find one on there and you want a bit more information than the advert states, then if you email earlycareers@edfenergy.com, and I'll put that in the chat once I've finished speaking, and you want more information, then what we can do is we can basically give you an apprentice to talk about who's currently in that scheme to give you a bit more idea of what that scheme entails. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so as an apprentice, you will join our organisation, and there's so much support for you here at EDF. So one of them is an early careers manager, that's me. While you are in placement, or while you're on site, whatever that is, you will have a placement manager or a manager who will manage you while you're on there. You generally, for an apprenticeship, will have a mentor. So a mentor is somebody who's ensuring that you are getting the knowledge, skills and behaviours that are deemed important for that apprenticeship. We have forums, so they're either monthly or bi-monthly, where we get all the apprentices from your scheme together just to kind of see how everybody's doing. You've got support from the university and the college. So you will have lecturers, but you'll have one key contact, one tutor who will manage you through your working time. Within EDF, we've got a whole range of employee networks, and what a lot of our apprentices tend to join is our Young Professionals Network, which, if you are successful, I totally recommend you having a look at, because there's so much information that you can find from there. And then the final one on this circle is the buddies. So buddies are generally people who are in the scheme above. Now, sometimes, and in some cases, we do have new schemes that do start. So for example, from the previous slide, and if you click on the link, we've got a new engineering apprenticeship starting for renewables this year in September, and for our health and safety and environmental team, we've got another apprenticeship, and that's the first time these schemes have been run. But what we will do is, in that instance, we will provide you a buddy who is a current apprentice, because we have a few apprentices across all of our schemes, who will buddy up with you, so you can ask kind of any questions. It might be, although Holly said there's no silly questions, it might be like a silly question that you feel, oh, I don't really want to ask my career manager, my placement manager. The buddy is kind of that person who has been exactly where you've been when they've started in the organisation, and will support you throughout. Another thing that we do, so if you're successful, generally the start date is around the first, second week in September. And what we do is we provide an induction. EDF is a massive organisation, so there's so many business areas, there's so many things. You will work in potentially one area, but it's really important that you understand the company that you're working for. So what we will do is we will provide you with an induction to EDF as a whole, so you'll get to meet and speak to some of our senior leaders, but also find out more about the organisation that you're going to be working in. Okay, so if you do decide to apply for EDF, good luck. I do support the assessment centres, so if you are there, I will see you. Obviously, I can't see you now, granted. But if you've got any questions as well, please put them in the chat and we'll answer them at the end. I'm now going to hand you over to one of my brilliant apprentices, Sam Cockcroft.
Hello everyone, I'm Sam and I'm an apprentice wind turbine technician based at Durham. Next slide please. So once I finished school, I went to sixth form college. I done A-level biology, psychology and engineering, and then once I'd finished sixth form, I'd not done too bad at psychology, so I still didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I went to university. I done an undergraduate degree in psychology, and then I finished that and I still didn't know what I wanted to do. So I done a master's degree in forensic psychology, and then believe it or not, after that I still didn't know what I wanted to do. So I managed to save some money off working part-time in a hotel and whatnot, and I went traveling. So I went to Asia for 6 months, traveled there, and then I went to Australia. And if I could just go to the next slide please. Then while in Australia, I planned just to go for around a month or two, but I made some friends, as you do, and I decided to get a job in labouring, like manual work. I've never done manual work. I've only worked in hotels, like retail type of jobs, and I hadn't even picked up a screwdriver. So I went to the building site and got talking to people, learned 1-2 things, and then I enjoyed it. So for something that I'd never really considered, to then get into manual work was a brand new thing. So I was there for 2 years, travelled around Australia, going to different building sites, and then after 2 years I returned home and finally knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to retrain away from what I'd done in my degree, and this apprenticeship at EDF Renewables came up. Next slide please. So I applied for the role in the May, sorted it out throughout the summer, then luckily I got offered the job and I started in September 2020. So it's a 3-year apprenticeship. So I'm due to finish in August, September of this year. The first 2 years were spent predominantly at Tyne Metropolitan College, and then every 3 to 4 months you have a couple of weeks on site, and then your final year of your apprenticeship is completely site-based, and that's how now I'm at Meadowfield in Durham. Next slide please. The picture on the left, you can see that's some practical work we were doing at the college. So we're in a group of 8 apprentices, so you learn some of your practical skills. And then on the picture on the right, I think that was one of my first placements. That's putting the skills that you learn at college into practice in the field. So you combine the two, and then hopefully in August I'll have passed the apprenticeship. Next slide please. The left picture is an onshore site. It's Northumberland. That was just took a few weeks ago. As you can tell, a bit of snow on the ground, really cold. And then on the right, our offshore site, just off Redgar down at Teesside. Next slide, please. And just a little further information about the apprenticeship. Once I've completed the course, I'll have a level 3 maintenance operation engineering certificate. EDF does give you the opportunity to follow on your learning with a HNC after. All your GWO certificates are done whilst on the apprenticeship, and these are the certificates that you need to be able to work on wind turbines. And then throughout the scheme, you're given different types of training, off-road driving, just getting you ready to complete your apprenticeship and start a job at the end of it. And I think that's it for me. I think I'll pass it on to Ben now.
Hi everyone, so I'm Ben. I started the apprenticeship at the same time as Sam did, so this is kind of a reunion, I guess. Next slide, please. There's some photos you can see as well, both on site and at college. So what I did before my apprenticeship, before applying, I was studying business studies, computer science and applied science at sixth form. Then COVID-19 happened and I realised it wasn't for me, and if I'm being frankly honest, I absolutely hated it. I wanted something that was more hands-on, where I could gain work on site as well as practical and academic knowledge as well. So that's why the apprenticeship was an ideal thing to do. You know, you get to do your college-based assignments, and then you get to kind of go on site and then improve on them skills and things that you've learned in a more practical environment. So yeah. What made me want to join EDF? Helping Britain achieve net zero was one of the big factors, you know, with the whole global warming and everything that's going on in the world at the minute. Just kind of being able to say that you have an impact on that and then help improve is a great thing to be a part of. It's a growing industry with huge areas for growth and development. It's only going up and up and up. I mean, it's just the beginning now, and in 10, 15 years time, what's it going to be like? The ability to network with new people within the company and explore other areas in the renewable energy sector. So as a wind turbine technician, you don't just get to see wind turbines. You know, we have events throughout the year where we meet other people from, say, solar, as well as we have nuclear, there's Hinkley Point C, there's loads of different areas. As Gemma mentioned before, all the different apprenticeships, you kind of get to meet a bit of everyone and network a bit, which is great. And you have the opportunity to develop new skills and gain qualifications while being at work. So currently, me and Sam are working towards our level 3, but we're also going to have the knowledge and experience at the end of it as well, rather than just a qualification. Next slide. So my experience so far as an apprentice, here's a photo of us all. Yeah, that's all of us. Next one. So I've kind of broke it down into 3 stages. So I've got the training, the personal development, and on-site experiences and development. These are the 3 things that really stand out to me as a EDF apprentice. So first of all, training. During my time at EDF, there's been a significant amount of training and development delivered to ensure that I'm safe, competent, and happy whilst at work and outside of work. Here's some examples. So as you can see in the first picture, that's, I think that was first aid. I think it was first aid. I might be wrong. But that was kind of in the classroom, just learning a bit. Second photo, that's slinger signaling banksman training, which is used for when we're on the wind turbine. We have a big crane that you send up and down so that you're safe when using that. Number 3, that was confined spaces. You use various breathing apparatus and you do your training at AS. It's all GWO training, as I've stated further down, which I'll get to in a minute. And then the 4th one is 4x4 off-road training, which was probably the most fun. We also done high torque training using high torque equipment for various bolts and tightening bolts, abrasive wheel training, dealing with abrasive wheels. And then the first aid that I mentioned at the start, it's not just like practical first aid, you also learn mental health first aid as well, which is, I think, really important to consider. Next one. So personal development, there's been a variety of ways that EDF have helped me with my personal development. So I have regular one-to-one meetings with both my line manager and my college tutor. So it includes set objectives to make sure both myself and EDF are happy with my progress. If there's anything they're not happy with or anything they are happy with, then that's kind of raised, and it's either a well done or here's some areas you need to improve on and how can we improve on them. It's just kind of trying to make you the best you can be. The EDF benefit scheme as well, it offers great support towards employees for your mental health, your private healthcare, as well as a cycle to work scheme, and maintaining a healthy lifestyle and a work-life balance. It's important to EDF that you're happy just as much as they are. It's great to see that they do care about you as a company. So if you are applying, take that into consideration as well. I mentioned earlier about the development days and face-to-face events when I said about networking, and it has improved my ability to network and communicate with others, as well as delivering presentations, which I'd done, I think it was last month. So you can see on the image below, I was quite chuffed afterwards. So yep, on to the third one. So my on-site experiences and development. During my time on site, I've gained a better understanding of the wind turbine industry, which is obvious. Every day is different with new challenges, so it's not like I go to work and do a 9 to 5. It's like one day I could be doing a generator alignment and changing a generator, another day I could be fitting a transformer. One day I might just be doing a service, changing oil filters and cleaning up, but every day is different, and it's good that you kind of, no matter what you're doing, you're always learning something new. I've received great training from experienced technicians. So Gemma mentioned earlier about mentoring, and the people that I work with on site are all great. They help you out, they give you a hand, and they teach you everything you need to know. You know, sometimes you kind of feel like, oh, I feel like a bit of a pest, constantly asking questions, but they're always happy to help you out and teach you everything you need to know. So, and in addition to that, all the skills that I'm learning are just so transferable, whether I'm in the electrical industry, the mechanical industry, it's transferable. So I think that's everything from me. Thank you.
Right, we're on to questions a bit earlier than we normally are. So it's great. We've got lots of time to go through stuff. Are we done on the presentation? Just checking. Okay, great. Well, thank you very much for that. It's very, very insightful. Life as an apprentice, and all the application processes, etc. Please, if anyone's got a question, please ask it in the chat, and we'll make sure it gets asked. We have a bit more time for questions than we normally do. Been very efficient on the presentation, but I'm going to start with a few questions. I'm going to try and be progressive about the questions. So there's a few questions that are sort of pre-A level work experience type of stuff. So a question that we always have and we always get is, are there any A level or GCSE requirements or recommendations?
I'll take that one if you don't mind. Yes, there are. I mean, we do have a lot of apprenticeship schemes, and I can't give you exactly the requirements for each individual scheme, but they're all outlined on the advertising. So we have put the links in the chat. So if you're interested in something specific, it's worth taking a look at those. So it's really open for each individual scheme. You've heard from Sam's background, you've heard from Ben's background, so they are very different, and each individual scheme is different.
So on that, I know you said you've got a lot of schemes. Can you just highlight some of the more popular ones and some of the maybe slightly more obscure, interesting ones? I remember seeing nuclear something one year, but I know they change every year. So are you able to just share a few of your popular and kind of slightly more interesting ones?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have what's called a NEDA apprenticeship, which is a nuclear engineering degree apprenticeship, if I can get that correct. So it's a really broad apprenticeship. Obviously does what it says on the tin, nuclear engineering, which is always really interesting and fascinating. We have the wind turbine technician apprentices as well, which I'm sure Sam and Ben have got many stories about telling their friends and family that they scale wind turbines. We also have other types of apprentices, such as business admin apprentices, which kind of keep the cogs on for us. We have HR apprentices, and as Gemma said, we're constantly developing the apprenticeships as well. So we've got a couple of new ones this year in our renewables space. We've got engineering, and we've also got health, safety and environment. So essentially we have apprenticeships in our key areas across the organisation.
So I'm going to kind of ask a couple of questions in one here. I think you guys mentioned that you got a level 3 certificate. What levels of apprenticeship do you have, and how many apprentices do you take on each year across your cohorts?
Want me to answer that one?
Sure, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, so the numbers vary, okay, depending on like that kind of future planning. So it can vary every year. So for example, if I use the wind turbine apprenticeship as an example, if you click on the link, you won't find that this year. And we tend to do it 1 year, rest a year, 1 year, then rest a year. And the reason why is because the development of the apprenticeship is so important that we don't want to leave ourselves light on the ground and not be able to develop people enough. So that's one of the things. So it goes really from level 3, we have a level 4, level 5 and level 6. So all of the levels, so right up to degree apprenticeship. So they vary. The good thing about the advertisements is they will actually share with you exactly what that degree what that level of apprenticeship is. So consider that when you if you're interested in the levels. Majority of people are more interested in the job than the actual level, because one thing EDF are really, really good at doing is developing their people. Like I've been here for 20 years, which every time I say it, it sounds insane, but I've been at EDF for 20 years. It was London Electric when I first started. But I've been here a long time, and the development and the job progression that I've had over those years has been massive. We've got access to what's called the apprenticeship levy funding. So we can actually utilise that. So once you kind of enrol and you've completed your apprenticeship, I think Sam mentioned that, for example, in his field, if he was interested in going into an HNC later on, that would be funded by the apprenticeship levy. So there's still lots of development to be done, not just the apprenticeship you're doing. The development is never ending. But one thing I will say is it's not going to come to you handed on a plate. You have got to want that development. You've got to drive yourself forward. You'll get all the support from the business while you do it, but obviously that is all there for you.
Thank you for that. Following that, so you mentioned you've got lots of apprenticeships, etc. What locations do you have your apprenticeships in?
So that depends. Okay, so we have a lot in the southwest. So HPC, I see somebody in the chat mentioned, do apprentices get to go and see Sizewell C? I'm going to be honest, it's not much to look at right now, but it will be. And it's the same with HPC. So we have a lot of people in our southwest area. We will start to see Sizewell apprenticeships coming in the years, because obviously they will want to grow their people as well. So we do, you might not get to physically see it, although we do try. The YPN, if you join that, there's always random visits here, there and everywhere. So you get to see our whole fleet, if that's something that you're interested in. But basically, we have a lot of our apprenticeships are based in the southwest. They go to Bridgewater and Taunton College, I believe it's called, which is based in the southwest. So there's a lot in there. For example, if we look at my wind turbine apprentices, I've got them in Scotland, I've got them in Peterborough, I've got them in Wales. They can be anywhere. One of the good things about EDF, especially especially the renewables area, it is kind of spread here, there, and everywhere. We've got offices in Durham, we've got offices in London, we've got offices in Edinburgh. So actually, there's quite a large scope for where those places are located.
Fantastic. Just again, you mentioned a couple of colleges. There's a couple of questions around which universities do you use for your degree apprenticeships? Are they universities or the colleges as well? So
degrees will always be universities. What we do is within EDF, we have what's called sourcing managers, and they will find us the best apprenticeship. So for example, my environmental apprentice, although he is based in Durham and travels to all of our renewable sites because it's all about the environment, he actually goes to university in Bolton, okay? Nowhere near Durham, okay? And he does block learning. Whereas, for example, our engineering apprenticeship, that is going to be based at Sunderland University. So we just look for what's the best. We have a standard that we expect. and basically we will contact them, find which one's the best course for us, and then we'll kind of do it that way. But if they're already set, every application that you see online will show you which university it's at, or it should anyway.
I know you said that you've got lots, but we've had a couple of questions on your engineering apprenticeships and whether you need maths or physics, etc. Could you shed any light on that?
Yeah, I can, absolutely. So for the engineering electrical degree apprenticeship that we've got live at the moment, I've got it up in front of me, so if you can see me moving my head onto this screen, we would look at an equivalent of 112 UCAS points in relevant subject areas. So it doesn't necessarily specifically need to be engineering, for example. It can be maths, it can be physics, it can be something in the STEM area. So it doesn't need to specifically be purely engineering.
Before I move on to some questions to apprentices, there's one question which was, can I apply for an apprenticeship if I'm a graduate?
Absolutely. Sam just shared his experience, so he's got an undergrad and he's also got a master's. Absolutely.
Perfect. So a couple of questions for apprentices. Like life as an apprentice, do you get to interact with the other apprentices? Do they organise events, etc.?
Yeah, I'll start with this one. So obviously for the first 2 years it's college based, so I'm from the area, so I lived at home, but we're still in college together each and every day. We organise our own nights out between us, but 2 or 3 times a year there's face-to-face events where you go out with not just the apprentices but people from right through the business. There's even one night, I think, Gemma, I think you got us all pizza one night, didn't you, if I remember right?
Yeah.
And you just sort things as you go, but you're in quite a tight group, because obviously when you're at college you're doing all the same lessons, all the same subjects, you're doing the same assignments, so you help each other out any way you can, really.
Yeah, we try and do team building events as well, especially, so for example, Ben showed a picture and we'd all been paddle boarding. I'm going to be honest, I was absolutely brilliant at that. I said nobody ever when I nearly drowned and died, but we'll talk about that later. But basically, like, a lot of the schemes will do that within themselves, but we also do volunteering days here at EDF, so we try and get them together as a group, so that people get the opportunity to network, because even though you might be in a different business area, your network is probably one of the biggest things that is really good at EDF.
Right. Ben, are you going to answer the sort of socials questions, or has that really just been answered by Sam?
No, I think that was answered really well. Yeah.
Okay.
Gemma was really good at the paddleboarding.
Oh, I guess you were in the same cohort, so yeah. A question we always get asked, and this is a good one for the apprentices again. What do you think made your application stand out so you got through?
I think just being authentic. You've just got to be yourself, because I imagine there's quite a lot of people that apply and it just sounds the same as everyone else's application, and it's all just about doing something that makes you stand out a bit more, whether that's a hobby or interest that you have. You get asked things like that, like what do you do in your spare time, and just having a good personality, I think is the word. It's not all about how academic you are, it's about who you are as a person as well, so making sure to include that.
Sam, or is that covered as well?
I would just kind of echo that. So obviously when I first started applying for jobs, or even in school, I used to just think it was how many A stars or A's or whatever your grades were, but really I think that about you section at the top is probably more important than anything else, because a lot of people's going to have similar grades, or at least in the same area, but that about you can really sell yourself, and that's what people will probably take notice of when it comes on the desk.
Again, that's it. Go on, Holly.
Sorry, I was just about to say, from a recruitment perspective, I can't echo that enough. We do get in the tens of thousands of applications across all of our early career schemes, and it is vitally important to remain yourself. You don't need to have, not in all the schemes anyway, you don't have to have kind of specific qualifications. You don't need to, at age 2 decide that you want to be an engineer and that's your goal. If you want to have a career change like Sam did, it's absolutely fine, and we encourage our people to be who they are. So it's important throughout the recruitment process that you show that.
Holly, I think this one's for you, and I think I saw it on the chat that your application deadlines are next week, but generally speaking, what are your kind of application starting points and deadlines, etc.?
Yeah, so we advertise sort of December time, so we start applications in December, we close them sort of end of February. There is usually about a 3 or 4 week gap between you the advertising dates closing and us starting the interview process. Once the interview process starts, it's relatively quick, again probably about 3 or 4 weeks in between you having kind of an initial call through to offer. When we hold assessment centres, we aim to get offers out the following week, if not the same week, so things do move quickly.
Actually, we just had a good question. I think we've had it a little bit earlier as well, and we've had it previously, so it's worth answering. Again, I think it's a HR question. If I was in London and I had to move to the northeast for my apprenticeship, do you offer any relocation support or any help, etc.?
So it completely depends on the apprenticeship, completely. So for example, if I look at my wind turbine apprentices, we paid for their accommodation at the glorious halls of residence at Dr. Winterbottom, which actually is currently on the process of moving because they're building a new site. We paid for their accommodation, and we used to put a bus on daily to take them to and from college. Okay, so obviously there's no cost for that. Obviously you have to pay for your own food. We're not doing that as well, but so in that instance we did. But it completely depends on the apprenticeship. Sometimes, for example, in the HPC ones, if you're out of the area, depending on which one it is, then I think they do like up to 6 months to a year worth of accommodation, but it does tell you in the information, so definitely have a look at that.
And just to follow on from that question from Fran in regard to support, absolutely 100%. You know, the all of the people that Gemma mentioned, your buddies, your early careers managers, your line managers, they're all there to support you. You know, we might not necessarily be able to provide you with housing, but we can point you in the right direction. So there's absolutely support there for when you need it.
Yeah, definitely.
Do most people get offered a job at the end of their apprenticeship, and do most people stay?
It completely depends. So there's opportunities there. Obviously, I'm going to be honest. If you're not very good at your apprenticeship, actually, I'll reframe that. Sorry, rewind. Always use your apprenticeship as an interview. Okay, so if you're on an apprenticeship for 3 years, treat it like a 3-year interview, because at the end of the day, you are on a fixed term contract, which means that you have not got a permanent contract with EDF, but there are opportunities. So why would we want to keep you? That's what you've got to be thinking. So everything that you do, so for example, like Ben there, he's been out and done presentations. Like, I hear all these things back. So if you're really good, we will definitely want to keep you. Okay, that is always the plan, because it's a massive development, a massive time and cost to bring apprenticeships in. And the amount of time we spend developing you, then in reality, why would we want to get rid of you? So the idea is, majority of the time, there is the opportunity for permanent roles in the organisation. That is the aim. That is what when we actually get these figures, that's what we aim to do.
Okay, great. So we're sort of getting into the last few minutes. I'm going to ask the apprentices some questions. Can you tell us the best and worst bits about being on an apprenticeship program?
I'd say the best thing for me is the variety. I've had 2 years at college where I moved away from home. So I live in the Lake District and I moved over to the Northeast, and I met 7 other apprentices. And then I've spent times doing work placements. I've been and done, well, so many different things. And then I'm spending the next year on site. It's just the variety's like unreal. And then even when you're on site every day, like I said earlier, it's something new. It's not just going and doing the same thing day in, day out. So the variety, I think, is the best thing. Worst thing kind of contradicts what I said about moving away. So as much as I loved moving away, I kind of started to miss home a bit. But it's not that much of a big deal. Depends if you like staying at home or not. So yeah.
I would say the best thing for me was, obviously, like I said, I'd had a few years working manual work, but I didn't have any theoretical knowledge behind what I was doing. I was kind of learning on the job. But the apprenticeship, having the 2 years at college, you put the reasons of why you're doing things, not how to do things. And I enjoyed having them 2 years, to be honest, to build up some base knowledge. And then you go to site during, every 3 or 4 months, or like now the final year, and everything that you've learned you're putting into practice. And for the worst thing, it's not that, like I said, I'd enjoy the theory, but during this final year, the theory doesn't kind of stop either, because you've got to write up every single job that you've done. But that's all part of your portfolio to pass at the end. And I think once I'm in the job, I might even look back through the portfolio I've written up and remember how to do certain things, because you don't deal with the same thing every day. It could be months until you do the same task again. And now you're going to have, I've got a full book of tasks that I've done that I've written up that I can look back and see how to do things. So there's not really anything bad about it at all from my point of view.
Okay, great. We just lost. Right. Well, I'm going to end with, what's been your most memorable moment on your apprenticeship so far? So it doesn't have to be work related, but it could be work related.
Mine's probably not work related, to be honest. Just before we were leaving, I think we all just went for a night out. We went for some food. I think we went to the horse racing a few times. And like, these are people, some of them's a few years younger. There was one of the guys was a few years older, but people who I would never have met in any other scenario. And we all became friends, and just looking forward to seeing each other at the end of the month away from college. And just probably the nights out, the bonding, the sports events. That was probably my best experience up to now.
Ben?
Sorry, I keep kind of coming in and out of the meeting a bit. I think it's my internet. I don't know if you can hear me, but I'll just start speaking anyways. Most memorable thing, it's been a fair few. Like Sam said, I think it's kind of the outside of work, the social life, you know, meeting each other, and then just doing things together, and watching Gemma fly off the paddleboard, I think, as well, was probably, yeah.
I did wonder if that was going to feature in the most memorable, actually. Obviously, you mentioned it earlier.
Ben was so good at it, that's why. So you got to watch us fall a lot.
Well, we have come to the end of our webinar. Thank you to all our, EDF colleagues, and thank you to everyone that attended. I know that we have a handout that's going to be sent out by email tomorrow after this. If you have any other questions or want to know more information, the link to the EDF career site is pinned over here, but I'm sure it'll be in the handout as well. We will send you out a questionnaire tomorrow, and this webinar has been recorded. So if you missed anything or want to recap anything, then you can watch it again. And I think Gemma just sent out added the email somewhere. Yeah. So you can ask any questions there directly as well. Gemma, Holly, Ellie, is there anything you want to add before we finish?
Holly's on mute. So good tip, if you ever come to us and you're on Teams, always make sure you're off mute.
Honestly, you'd think after 2 years I'd be able to learn how to use Teams. The only thing that I just wanted to say again, just reiterating what I said at the beginning, thank you so much for taking the time to spend a little bit of time with us this afternoon, this evening, and learn more about us. We are genuinely open to questions, so if there's anything that you want to know, the email address is in the chat, and also all the information is on our website as well. So thank you so much.
Yeah, agree. Thank you very much, and thank you.
Thank you, guys. Have a great evening.
Bye, everyone.
You too. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.